Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. BJ on Game Day back again for another week and a big show this week. King, we lead into round one, 2022 team lists have been dropped, mate. How you going and what are your thoughts on team lists?
Mate, I'm very, very well, mate. Christmas has arrived. The day we all wait for, team list Tuesday prior to round one. Mate, I'm good. I'm still struggling a little bit from COVID, and I tell you what, I actually sort of have a little bit of sympathy for players like Adam Reynolds and things like that who have had it because she's not fun, mate. I can day to day I can do everything, but I'm barely able to breathe. So I'm not too sure how these boys, even though they are athletes, would get around the park for 80 minutes because I can barely walk from one side of the house to the fucking other, and it's not a big house without having to sit down. So, mate, team list Tuesday. Yeah, look. Couple of little surprises, but overall, I think everything we knew before yesterday, we still know. I don't think there was any real big surprises. Maybe one or two cheapies that came through here. You had Schiller for the Raiders come in the centres. The Viliami, the new Viliami, I think for the Warriors in the centres, which again we knew probably about a week out. They kept it hush for a long time, but we found out that a few days ago. And just a few others that were confirmed, a few that we missed out as well. Mate, overall, I don't think I had to destroy my team too much, mate. I think I was still able to keep it fairly how it was beforehand. What about yourself, mate?
Yeah, look, it's interesting. A few diamonds there. And good evening, Bogan, mate. How are you, buddy? And everyone that's chimed in.
Oh, yeah. Nice Normally I'll swing through to Bogan, but yeah, I missed it, mate. Unlucky.
No, that's all right. Evening. Yeah, look, interesting. I think the fact that Pappy was named is an interesting one. I was sort of thinking maybe he wasn't going to be named, so now having to rethink that whether I want to run with Turbo or not, and the weather's maybe putting me off that first game, Penrith Manly a little bit as well. So I'm not as.
But you know what's putting me off?
What's that?
Your fucking head sideways in this fucking camera.
Apologies,
mate. What the fuck's going on? What are you, Two-Face, mate? You got a fucking Batman, taping on later. What's going on? What's wrong with the other side?
Utilising the space as well, King. That's the thing, we don't all live in those mansions up where you are, buddy.
Oh yeah, mate. Fuck, man, my 3-bedroom fucking massive.
And that fucking Skype background, it's fucking cutting half your face off.
We'll sort that out. I'll have to get a webcam. Put on that later. Might make it easier.
We move on. Move on.
Look, a couple of interesting little gems in there that I didn't expect that I've chucked in, but yeah, I'm still just tinkering with the idea of running with Turbo or not, and I don't mind the team I can make up without running Turbo, and I also don't mind the team I can run with him. So it's just we'll see what happens. And
the biggest thing I've been thinking about with regards to Turbo over the last sort of week or so is it's one thing to miss out on him. It's one thing to just sort of think, all right, I can spend the cash elsewhere, or I can save the cash because he's going to drop like that. It's a completely valid argument. I really believe that. But you're going to miss 3 to 6 weeks if it takes that long for him to drop down in price of a captain who might score 120, 130, 140. Now, is Teddy reliable? Somewhat, yes. I mean, the captaincy is really the part that I think people are going to miss out on rather than the cash.
Yeah, and their draw obviously is quite well noted that they start with Penrith and the Chooks, but that round 3 they play the Dogs and you got Raiders and Newcastle, so It definitely opens up a bit for him there. And you're right, if you're not going to start with him, you're probably not going to get him in till maybe 5 or 6. So and that's if he doesn't perform well. If he does happen to perform well against Penrith or the Chooks, which he definitely could do, you're going to be playing massive catch-up because he won't drop too much money.
What's the talk around the weather, mate? I think a few lads are saying obviously wet in Sydney, some blue skies there today, which is a nice change. I've obviously had the floods, which have affected the whole sort of eastern seaboard of Australia. Hope everyone's all right, doing okay at home if anyone has been affected by that, guys. What do you think about the weather, mate, this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess that's the only other issue I think with the starting with Turbo, in particular for that Manly Penrith game. We haven't looked exactly too closely at the weather just yet. Probably need to have a look at that. But if it's raining and it's really wet track in that Panthers Eagles game, it'd make me have second thoughts a little bit. But I guess you can't let that put you off your whole strategy of running with Turbo for the season anyway. And obviously the other big news is Cleary. No Nathan Cleary for the Panthers for a few weeks. Mate, it looks at least 3 weeks. And a Cleary-less Panthers is a very different proposition to a Panthers side with him running out there, obviously. So,
do you think it is defensively?
Maybe not too much. I mean, he's a really good defender as well, and obviously a key.
He is, yeah.
He defends in a key part of the field, but obviously, generally speaking, probably not. I guess the only other thing with it is, everything else he does with his kicking game and where, how he leads them around the park and where he gets them to on the park, contributes to probably how they go as a defensive unit as well. Put pressure on sides down in their own end. So we'll see. And again, the wet weather will just be an added variable if it is bad. So it's sort of hard to call, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just toss a coin every 5 minutes at the moment.
Yeah, look, it's probably one of the hardest decisions I think we've had in Supercoach for the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have touched on it. It really isn't, too much of a surprise. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It really. It's a brave move to take him. Obviously, it's a lot of cash there. If you do take him, you really need to see results. And the hardest part for me is it seems like an average of 100 for the first 6 rounds is not the result, because you're gonna drop so much cash. I think, because you know that the Teddies and the Pappies and the Cleary, obviously Cleary's out for a few weeks, but those guys can do the same thing. They can average 100 as well. And that really doesn't separate then Turbo from everyone else. So, like you say, the draw's not friendly the first 2 rounds, but after that, it gets very, very, very good for the Manly Sea Eagles. And, this is a team that hasn't been disrupted. They haven't really had too many injuries. They haven't really had too many changes to their personnel. It's the same core there that were there last year as well. So, you can argue that they'll just pick up where they left off last year, and that was, going out 1 game short of the grand final. They're one of the best teams in the comp for the last 8-10 weeks last year. So, does that just continue, and does Turbo continue on his merry way and averages 130, 140? It's a big gamble, mate.
Yeah, and then obviously, talking about some of those guys, you look at the draw of the Roosters and Melbourne, and it's not too much worse. Like it's been indifferent for the first 5 rounds, so I definitely don't think you lose anything by running with Teddy and Paps to start the season. And it's just a matter of, do you think that you got a better opportunity to score some of those big 100 pluses with those guys over the first 5 rounds, both of them, which, you got double the amount of games with both of them, and they're both very good players. Versus what you think Turbo can do, obviously. But, good luck to everyone trying to sort that out.
Yeah. Mate, I had one of my lads from work message me tonight with a team. He sent me a text, and it says, "I'm struggling." And I thought, how can you be struggling? Like you played last year, you got some kind of idea. And he sends me a text of a team that's got 20 selected out of 25, and he's got 130K. So he's, we've sent him a few. We've pipped his team on the quick there. Hopefully we can get him going right. But, mate, it is one of the toughest parts about Supercoach is starting the season, picking the right cheapies, getting the right guys that can sort of, develop your team as you go along, but without missing too much points along the way. So, mate, talk us through some of the cheapies that you've seen with the team release. Give us some sort of must-haves or some guys that you think people should have in their team.
Yeah, so there's been a couple pop up. One that's looking like you might be.
Do we want to start going into the team list and you can point them out?
Yeah, well, yeah, we may as well do that.
Oh, we're going to do that, are we?
I do have them.
All right, well, we'll do it this way then. All right, can anyone else read that? Because I can't read shit on the screen at the moment, eh?
I've got the team list up in front of me anyway, King. You might need to bring them
up.
The
pixels are fucking going off. let me jump on here and see what everyone else can see.
Yeah, look, so first up, obviously, We mentioned it, Panthers versus the Seagulls on Thursday night, tomorrow night at Bluebet Stadium. In this one, probably, Cleary's omission's a big one. Sean O'Sullivan comes in. I still don't think he has any relevance to start the season. Sean O'Sullivan. Liam Martin was there, who's a midi sort of guy people are looking at. And on the Eagles side of the park, a pretty standard looking side. Ethan Bullmore obviously getting the start with Schuster not there, which is interesting. So whether you decide to start with him at 280k, his security's probably not going to be amazing. He's probably not going to start there for too long. They've got some troops to come back into the picture, but I see him at worst case, he's a bit of a slow burn. You might make a bit of money out of him. You got there the Turkey King.
Mate.
Cheers, mate.
Tangent, like we always do.
Mm-hmm.
I was driving into the city in Brisbane yesterday, taking a car to a client, and I had the fortune to watch the SC Experience boys. Give them a quick plug out. Obviously, Timmy, last year's champion, Savage, a few of the other lads. The boys have gone and got sponsored by Manscaped. Have you seen the ads for Manscaped?
I haven't seen theirs. I might have seen the odd one here or there, but
mate, I've seen a few going through TikTok and the likes. The boys have gone out and got sponsored by Manscaped. So I figure if I show Wild Turkey to the fucking camera enough, maybe I can get sent a case a week, and I can fucking reduce my spending habits. But anyway, carry on.
See how you go, mate. See how you go. I'm just drafting in the background as well, King. So So I tried. Look, so I was just saying, Bullmore. There's some people not keen of him because of security. Might be real short term, but I think at 280k with that duality, he's going to be helpful. And if he only makes 50k or even 100k, it's like whatever. You got to start with someone, right?
He's low risk. That's the whole point. Is he's low risk duality. 280k is not awkward. These days in pricing, I don't think it is. So, yeah.
But apart from that, not really. Interestingly, Homolo Okalato has been named to start. It looked like he was going to miss at least the first month or so, but he's there. So if you're looking at a bit of pod action there with Ola, just keep an eye on the team list to make sure he does end up playing. The bench, a bit indifferent. A few people thought Kyle Lawton might have snagged that back row spot that Bullmore's in at the moment, so we'll see what happens there. And Cooler, I think he impressed in the trials, King, and he's got a bit of toe, the lad, so he's earned his way. He's earned a spot on the short term as well. But yeah, I think unless he ends up with a starting spot, he'll end up probably maybe being an 80 nightmare at 14 there.
Yeah. No, I'd agree, mate. I think it was either starting centre for him or nothing else. I think he's a little bit like Jake Arthur for Parramatta. You're maybe going to see these guys get 10 or 15 minutes at the end of a game, and they don't have the talent of Pappy or those kinds of lads to put on 60 or 70 points in that quicker time. So for mine, mate, he's no good.
Yeah, so that's Penrith taking on Manly, the first game of the season tomorrow night. And then your boys, mate, on the Friday evening at 6 o'clock down here at GIO, the Raiders taking on the Sharks, mate. Thoughts on these ones?
Yeah, mate, look, tough matchup, I think, to start the season for both these teams. I think both teams are keen on making the 8 this year. I think they've got the squads to do so. Cronulla's recruited quite well. Raiders obviously suffered a little bit of a personnel issue with Fogarty going down injured. We see Schneider come into the team at bottom dollar sort of cheapy range in the halves, and I think I'm not too sure what to make of it. But one thing you've been guaranteed is in a team where Ricky Stewart's your coach, the bloke's going to come in prepared at half. He's not going to sort of put anyone in who's not ready. I think this guy can come in and average 40 or 50 points. I'm not saying he's going to go crazy and completely set the world on fire. But I think from a Supercoach point of view, he's not going to be one of those sort of half nightmares that we've seen in the past that average, 20 or 25. I think he can average in that 40 to 50 range. And, anything bigger than that or better than that. He goal kicks apparently as well. So, the Sharks defense hasn't been the best in the past few years. I don't think it'll be that good to begin with either. And I can see a sort of, a decent 4-try game out of the Raiders. So an extra few points there in goal kicking.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely an option and, a smart one to start the season, King. So for sure. Totally agree with that one.
All right. Other than that, who we got next? Broncos and Rabbitohs. Yeah, obviously. The Broncos affected by COVID here with the absence of Adam Reynolds and Corey Pay. We see in the halves Billy Walters and Albert Kelly. Mate, let's talk obviously about the omission of Pereira. A lot of people were expecting him to be there at the start of the season. 266K seemed to be a little bit of value. Played well in both the trials. Played really well. Yet Kevy Walters has sort of gone with that, I guess, loyalty range and has kept Oates in there as much as he really hasn't sort of performed well for a little while now.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's a bit disheartening probably if you're someone like Pereira or some of those other young blokes at the Broncos there. But I guess the other thing that was interesting with that one was Asako being named at fullback. There was a bit of speculation that maybe Cobbo would get it with Tessie out, and they didn't. They've opted with Jermaine. They've gone with the safety route, and young Cobbo's found the wing, which, you know, we thought maybe he was going to find a centre, or we didn't know what was going to happen there. But yeah, look, I think it's crazy that Oates is in there. For how long, I don't know, but it's disappointing from a Supercoach perspective for sure, because Pereira would have been absolute gold to start the season at 266 on that wing. So,
Sure.
Yeah, massive shame there. But keep eyes on him. Just what might happen throughout the season. Only take one injury.
Now, bear with me, mate. I'm just trying to look up the team list here because what Bogan's got on the screen, I can't fucking read.
Obviously, there Adam Reynolds at this point in time won't be playing the game. There's been a media circus in regards to his COVID, which probably is going to happen throughout the season. It's interesting, King. It'll be one of those things you might have to take into consideration as well if a player gets ruled out with COVID and they've got a game in a short turnaround. If you're looking at bringing someone in, or it might impact the way you make some trades as well, which is interesting. But it's going to be a bit of a circus at times, I feel.
This is what I mean. Forget the turnaround, like whether you can get to that second game. This has knocked me, mate. Like this COVID, I dead set the whole breathing thing and the lungs. I mean, I've Mum being an emergency sort of nurse, I've spoken to her about it as well. She said a lot of people in a similar kind of situation where it's taken around that 4 to 6 weeks for your lungs to fully recover. So, I'm not saying everyone will be in the same boat, but I'm sure a few of these guys, if they do get COVID along the way, may struggle.
That as well.
It's definitely not easy to go through.
Yeah, that as well. So it is interesting. And yeah, anyway, as I said, it will be Walters to partner Albert Kelly in the halves for Brisbane. In that Brisbane pack, Kurt Capewell obviously starting on the edge there. He's at similar price to Liam Martin if you're looking for something in that mid sort of area that might be all right. And on the Rabbitohs side of the park, obviously no Latrell. They will start with Blake Taff at fullback in his position for I think the 1 week he'll miss. And at the moment running Lachlan Ilias at 7, which is good to see. A bit of a cheapie obviously to start the season with a duality. You probably got to start the year with him if you're being sensible. He's got to be somewhere there, probably with Schneider as well. Good coin you can save there. Tane Milne, King, I hadn't really noticed him, but he's found his way on that wing over Mansour as well, which is interesting. I don't know what his price is. I don't know if you've had a look at him, but that's interesting to see there.
He's fairly affordable. I think he's around that sort of 280 or 300k mark. I sort of don't mind him now that he's actually got that spot.
And can score tries. He can score tries.
Yeah.
So.
He's had his injury woes, but I think now that he's sort of established himself, had a full preseason under his belt, I don't mind it.
Yeah, so maybe odds on him, see how he goes. And young Jackson Paulo's in the centres at the moment. And then the forward pack, pretty stock standard from that South pack there. Maybe a breakout year from Keon. He's pushing. He's played a couple seasons now, or last season was his first debut season, but I think it was the season before. But yeah, he could potentially have a breakout season if you're looking for a bit of a pod, but it'd be a little bit risky, I think.
Yep, fair call. Who we got next, mate? Who's the Saturday game starter? My screen. Bogan, what's going on?
And the first game on the Saturday will be my boys taking on the Roosters at the Sydney Cricket Ground. That one's at 3 o'clock, King. So, yeah, another game that, depending on the weather could have a really big impact on this one. If it's a wet track out at the SCG, the scoring propositions of probably a few of these chooks might change a little bit. But that said, they're probably still going to slaughter us and unfortunately put 30 or 40 on us.
But, mate, One of the hardest things I've always found with Supercoach, mate, and a lot of people have, maybe it's why I don't perform that well. I'm not as much into draws as other people. Like I understand from a team perspective, and if teams are going to put on 50 or 60, and if we're talking. If we're talking, your best team in the comp up against the worst team in the comp, which, this probably defines as not far from that. But it's the first week, like there's going to be so many combinations that are new or are underdeveloped, basically, just because they've been doing it on the training park at sort of 60%, but rather than 80% or 90% or 100% speed. I think this is probably the best chance the Knights have got to beat the Roosters is first week. Just a few things going against the Roosters and that. So, I don't know. I don't see the flogging that everyone else has seen at the moment. Yeah, your Knights might go down, mate, but I'm thinking sort of 10 or 12 points rather than 20 or 30 that some people are talking about.
No, fair observation. I think it's a fair call. Like I said, a lot of these combinations, and you got Connor Watson at 9 there as well. Luke Geary didn't play much in the lead up either. Sam Walker there, and Teddy's obviously it's been well noted about his fitness. So yeah, I mean it's a pretty fair call. I just think a dry track at the SCG it probably won't matter, but I don't think it's going to be a dry track, so it bridges that gap for us, and I think it helps us. Supercoach wise, a big one's been Billy Smith. He wasn't one that people were sure about, but he's about 300k. He's in that Chook side. He's probably a pretty decent sort of. He's not a cheapie, but a lower end of that mid range. So he's someone that's found his way into my side since team lists have come out. There's probably going to be some points in that Chook side at times, and he might be amongst it.
Who did you say is made into your team, mate?
Billy Smith, the centre for the Chooks.
What price?
About just under 300, I think it is. Just a tad under, maybe.
When does he get injured?
Probably halfway through the first game.
Halfway, yeah. Okay, cool. No, as long as we're on the same page there, fair enough.
Yeah, look, fair call. And there's obviously plenty of concerns about his fitness, but got to start with someone. Come on, he's in the Chooks packing the Roosters at under 300k in that side, especially that. The attacking power they're going to have. I think it's a no-brainer.
Sorry for the kid, mate. He's had that many fucking injuries in his career. If there was anyone who, he's sort of Tau Mogan, mate. We're talking, there's a few lads.
If I bring up,
injury, he's one of them.
There's not much sample to go off with young Billy, obviously, because he hasn't played enough. But I'm just trying to find when he did get a run, how he went. Regardless of what his base is or anything like that, for a centre you don't really care, but he's in that Chook side. There's going to be points there for him at times. So I think he's a smart one. A lot of people. I'm a big fan of Satili King. I like him in that Chook side as well. I don't know if I'll be able to start the season with him, but I like him at 480k. The other guy I really like this season will be Big Gus at 650k. But again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get those guys in my team with a few other things that are happening. But there's been a couple drafts where I've had them both in, and it's tempting. Thoughts on a few of those boys?
Mate, look, I was massive on Satili last year. He was probably a little bit inconsistent last year for me. The tries are definitely there. The attacking football is definitely there. He's got a lot of missed tackles in him. Sometimes he's a little too over-eager to sort of get up and sort of put a shot on. So I think last year, probably 3 or 4 missed tackles a game were there. If he can sort of tidy that up, look, I can definitely see him being an option. Probably at this stage of the season, I think he's probably more of a draft option. Don't get me wrong. I think if people sort of need to find that cheapie in the second row, and pay $450 rather than $650, there's definitely something there with him. But I think you've just got to take the 30 games with the 80 and 90 games with this guy.
Yeah, and I think the only thing with it as well is obviously there's going to be some guys you pick that might have a good season, so you're banking on them to have a bit of one of the breakout seasons. So he's potentially one of those guys. That's all, and he's a high upside back rower. Gone are the days of the meat and potatoes being the what should be the core of your Supercoach team. You want those guys with that high upside. That some of these edge back rowers don't have the base, but in some of these good attacking sides, and even guys like Luciano who aren't even in that good attacking sides. They can get some attacking stats and score 100 plus pretty easily.
Satili and Nakora are very similar players where you've basically got them running off pretty solid halves. They run good lines. They can hit gaps. They can score tries. I think I probably prefer Satili purely because he's in that Rooster side over Nakora, just slightly. Yep. But at the same stage, what we've seen so far from Nico and Nakora with that combination, that probably looks better than anything Satili's had at the Roosters so far. So, I think definitely an option to have both. But I think more draft picks at this stage of the year.
Yeah, for sure. Great call on Nakora. Pretty much the same sort of thing. So, yeah, totally agree, bud. On our side of the park, mate, switching over to Newey. KP at the back, Dominic Young on the wing. I don't know. Are you going to touch anyone on this side? Obviously, Kurt Mann's been named to start at lock at this point in time. So, he's 380K. Pick him at centre wing.
Mate, I think 94% of people will have Chris Randall. And that's probably about it. Yeah. I think KP, there's just a few better options out there. Dominic Young, I want to stay away until he proves himself. Obviously, with Dan Saifiti out, a little bit more popularity has gone towards Jacob Saifiti. He probably showed last year that he was the better form of the brothers. And I think that can probably continue this year. Mate, Kurt, man, look, I'm not against it. I mean, last year he showed he's a fucking annoying little prick. Like, he doesn't pass that well, but he's got something there that's Supercoach handy. You know, like.
Yeah, he's a Supercoach friendly player.
He's a solid 500K player in Supercoach if he's a starting 13.
He's just a Supercoach friendly player, right? Like the way that he plays, it's just really conducive to good Supercoach scoring. You know, he's probably going to start the game at lock. There's a high possibility, I think, that Randall finds his way on the bench and Mann moves into hooker as well. But we also do have Phoenix Crossland on that bench as well. So maybe that throws that theory out the window. But, you know, Barnett's on the bench there. So I don't know what the minute share is going to be of him. But if he plays at least sort of 50 to 60 minutes, he's probably still going to pump out a PPM roughly per minute. One
thing you can always expect with your team is injuries. Rightly or wrongly, mate, you guys just seem you got the wrong end of the stick with injuries over the last couple of years, and guys going down. Not even with 10 or 20 to go, but the guys going down in the first 5 or 10 minutes of matches. So, yeah, if anything like that continues this year, I reckon Mann could be seeing a lot more minutes than people are thinking, and 380, I think, is value. I really do think it's value. I can't get him in my team just yet. I think I've got him or Bo Firma. You know, I think there's a good comparison there with pricing compared to potential. For now, I've gone Firma. The fact that he's starting, and I think he's got a really, really good ceiling. I think probably Mann's a little bit more active. So, but if anyone can fit them both in their team, I don't think you're doing too much wrong.
Yeah, so don't mind it. And then on the bench, there's a couple cheapies there, Leo Thompson and Jeraima Masia. Leo's just, I think, plugging a hole while D Saf's out, but you've also got a bit of competition for spots on that bench with guys like Brodie Jones not even cited in the squad, so not sure what's going on there. And also Jack Johns, I thought, might have been in the picture. So, you know, two guys there that haven't even made the list that might, you know, compete for those bench spots. But the word is that Momasia has earned the spot, one of that other one there. So he's at 200K King. I've got no idea. He probably ends up not doing much, maybe a 20 to 30 average, but he's a dual second row, front row at 200 odd K. So if you're really struggling, it's a Hail Mary.
I run into it every year. We all run into it. We've all got to start the season with some cheapies somewhere because you can't just have a team full of mid-rangers, you know, like you need to have guns in there. And the problem with that is the salary cap forces us to pick 3, 4, 5 blokes that we don't want to have. One of those guys, Momasia, is in my team now. I had to turf 2 or 3 guys from team lists. And one of those being Tepai Mairoa, which we'll sort of speak about shortly. But I like that he's got duality at least. That's good. He's second row and front row.
Yeah.
So that's probably, one good thing about him. But other than that, mate, I can't see him factoring in too much into my team.
Yeah, anyway, that's enough on those lists, I reckon, but load up probably plenty of people chucking that captaincy on Tedesco and just keep an eye on the weather because who knows what he'll be doing between now and then. Moving on to the second game on the Saturday, King, it's the Warriors taking on the Dragons on the Sunshine Coast. On that Warriors list, a big cheapie that's fallen in there at the start at centre is that Viliami Valea. I don't know much about him personally, mate. You know much?
I haven't got a fucking clue.
Yep. So he's bottom dollar. Is he bottom dollar or 200, 175k? Let me confirm. 205 rather. Sorry, he's not bottom dollar, but he's as good as. So I think he finds his way into a lot of sides with that, and from all accounts, it's his spot for now. Ewan Aitken has held that edge. Lisi Katoa's on the other edge, while obviously Harris is out. Curran will play 13, so people might be looking to start with Lisi Katoa. He's in the 300 range, I think high 300s or something like that, maybe mid 300s as a possible option running off SJ. And the Warriors have a really good draw to start the season, even though you're not a draw man.
Look, yeah, no, I'm not, but I am a Katoa man. Yeah. I've liked Katoa for a few seasons now, and you know what I've liked about him is I thought the exact same thing about IPAP.
Yep. We lost him. All right, we've lost him. So see what happens. See if he chimes back in. I don't know what he was going to say. He sees some IPAP in Katoa.
He does have a very profound look on his face, like he was about to say something very intelligent. So.
Yeah. So anyway, Katoa's found that edge for a few weeks at least. So see what happens there. I think there'll be some people that will start with him, and he does have that high upside to him. As I mentioned earlier, that's sort of what you want out of your the back rower out of Supercoach these days. Running off SJ, good draw. You could probably do worse. Yeah, probably not talking much about the bench. Pene's found a spot there, but I think just the minute share is going to be an issue with that big Warriors pack. The Dragon side of the park, Sloan has stitched up the one, so I know a few people are looking at Terrell Sloan, that 400k mark, and starting their centre wing positions. A fullback, we're interesting to see how he goes. Moses Sully's also earned a centre spot. You've got Talatau Amone as well, another cheapie that you can pick at centre wing or 5'8", who's stitched up the 6 to start the year, and he looks good as well. I think the only issue with Talatau, I just feel like you're going to get some possibly 20-odd scores out of him at times, 10s to 20s, maybe if not even a 30. But there's going to be some games where this kid will tear it up and score well. I can see him scoring 70, 80 plus. He'll be involved in a bit of stuff, and it could be against the Warriors this weekend. So, he could be a play as well this week in your centre wings if you're running a few cheapies down there. Jack Bird's also stitched up that edge for the Dragons, Bogues, and there's probably a few people looking at him now as well. Probably a few people, to be fair, had their eye on him before team list confirmed it. But he's an interesting proposition as well. Just let me bring him up here. At 498k, so he's not cheap, but I think he offers a bit there at on the edge, but you can pick him at centre wing. He's not cheap though, so it is a bit of a punt of a buy. Lomax is priced pretty similarly as well. So, there's a couple guys I'd love to start the season with, but I think they're just priced out at this point, just considering the makeup of the rest of my team. But I think there are a couple good options. Whether we see the bounce back of Jack DeBellin this season or not, I don't know. Probably is not going to be too relevant in Classic or anything, but maybe in a few drafts you could pick Jack up and he'll do a good job. Maybe he could average 50, 60 this season, so I don't mind him there either. Haven't looked much at the Dragons bench either. If there's a diamond in the rough there that you found with any of those boys, well done. But at this point in time, I haven't even really looked too closely at them, to be honest, Bogues. Moving on. This is making my draft in the background very difficult, Bogan, with no king here. What you want to lead us in with the Tigers Storm? You got any thoughts, Bogues? While I try and find my next player to draft.
Well, Pappy's obviously gotten over his injury, or at least enough to be named. But wouldn't be the first time that Belly has played silly buggers with the team list. A couple of days before. George Jennings, seen a lot of people picking up George. I'm not sure about him personally. Remy Smith, Justin Olam, Xavier Coates, which King said he's overrated. Put him in the Liam Knight team of the year. Nick Meaney, who I think he's filling in for Munster, which is interesting. He's actually a centre wing fullback in Supercoach. Be interesting to see if he can play himself into a more permanent spot. Storm always with a lot of depth, though, but he could be good value if you're looking for that dual. In case you are afraid of a fullback going down with injury or something like that. Jerome Hughes, Jesse Bromwich, Brandon Smith, who's actually I brought into my team because dual position once again.
I must admit, I've actually made one of the changes I made probably unnecessarily, but I just had a thought that I liked it was Harry Grant to Cheese to start at hooker. Obviously, Grant will only miss a week, but I just feel like running Cheese, from round one in this matchup isn't a bad idea. And I could just leave money in the bank to, go into Grant if the time is right or it doesn't play out how I saw it. But I really like Cheese to start the season. So good call, Bugs.
2021 Liam Knight Award winner Christian Welch, Felicia Kafusi, Kenny Bromwich, Josh King getting a start round one for the Storm. So there you go.
He's looking the goods. The other interesting thing that I have heard today as well, Bogan, is that Nick Meaney potentially may be goal kicking. So a big part of the appeal to Pat was the fact he was goal kicker for me. You're tossing up between, as someone that had Turbo tossing up between Teddy and Pat, him having that goal kicking was a bit of a factor because if they put 40 points on a side and he has 10 shots at goals and kicks all 10, there's another 40 points, obviously. So that sort of is a bit spooky. I don't know if the mail was any good. I really don't know. Even if does Meaney retain his spot in the side after next week once Munster's back and it's irrelevant anyway. I don't know if he gets a wing spot, but here he is.
Back.
Mrs. didn't fucking charge her laptop, but anyway.
Didn't pay the bill this week, mate. Just talking on Nick Meaney, mate. There was a piece of mail floating around that Meaney may be goal kicking and Pat won't be, but just talking that maybe Meaney won't even be in that side potentially after this week. Don't know if he finds maybe George Jennings wing next week or what the go is, but that was an interesting bit of mail that I heard that's a bit spooky.
Yeah, look, I think I've picked Meaney in a couple of drafts. I actually like Meaney. At one stage there, I had Turbo and Meaney at sort of fullback, just exploring with the team, and I like Meaney. I think what Remus Smith has sort of done there as well. Put it this way, I fucking put Meaney so far ahead of Coates, it's not funny. Like, George Jennings is a finisher. He's not much more than that, and you can probably say the same about Coates. I prefer George Jennings to Coates. I prefer Meaney to Coates. I think he offers more for the team, and obviously from a position of where he's flexible and sort of can cover different places, if worst case scenario, if they have to sort of change in positions, it's there, it's available. So I like Meaney to keep his spot once he's gone, and I think Coates drops out. I know Jennings will, just because it's George and it's not Michael Jennings, but yeah.
Yeah, big call. And it's interesting, none of them are probably guaranteed, but we'll see what happens there. Coates, as you touched on, a few people looking to start with Coates, a good matchup for round one as well. 350. I like him, but I don't know. He doesn't have the base in him, so you really are relying on him to score tries, obviously, with Coates, but we'll have a look at him to start the year and see how he goes. If you can find a little bit of busyness about him, just even 10 or 12 sort of consistent hit-ups a game, he could be really relevant, but he hasn't done that in the past. So that's
and I don't think he does it to Storm either. I think Belly's definitely it's the right team to develop players and get the best out of teams. It is the right system. We know that, and I just think Meaney's the one who'll thrive in that rather than Coates. So yeah.
Look, the rest of that Melbourne side, it's pretty solid. Shout out to Tyron Wishart. That's got a spot on the bench there. I'm assuming he's a relation to Wishart, mate. He looks really good.
It's his son, mate.
It is his son?
Yeah.
He looks unreal. I don't know if you've seen much of him, but he's a player of the future. But he's not going to be relevant this year. I just thought I'd shout him out.
Yep.
Tigers side of the park, mate. And we hadn't talked about the Tigers just yet too much. Are you starting someone like Gildart? Maybe a few people keen on Luciano. Another big one out of team list was Kelma Tuilagi at 260k, I think he is.
Yep.
So he's earned that back row spot there ahead of Garner, which is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how he goes.
I like the Tigers squad. I really do. I know they cop so much shit. They haven't made the finals in fucking forever. I think this is the year they can change that. I'm not as much a fan as their forward pack. But Tukumanu is obviously a lot of potential there. While Joe Offahengawi can make any starting squad, I think there's room for improvement. Not a fan of Joe. He's on the list. But I like what the Tigers have got in certain positions, and definitely for Supercoach. So I'm a big fan of Hastings. I'm liking Nofo and Mamolo on the wings. I think Mamolo is, can sort of bring back a little bit of form that we saw in those big sort of Warriors days. There's a few players I'm definitely looking at, and I do have Lucy in my team. I've got Lucy in my starting second row.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, nice. Yeah, look, Hastings as well. I'm really keen to see how he goes, but look, a couple of good ones in there. It will be interesting to see what sort of role Peachy plays, whether Simpkin ends up playing some minutes at hooker there. He could be a good little sneaky draft pickup or something, but otherwise not much happening. But thinking the Storm, probably trounce the Tigers. And the other concern, I guess the big concern if you're running a Pap King is if Bellamy's pulling a swift one and Pap doesn't play, maybe if you're planning on him being your captain or something like that, just be careful. Maybe make sure you've got a backup plan or something like that, because there's also, a bit of speculation as to his fitness, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bellamy did a Swifty.
Yeah. No, agree.
Sunday,
who we got after that?
On 4 o'clock on the Sunday will be the Eels taking on the Titans. Look, a lot of people talking about Parra this year, King. A lot of people high on them, especially after they touched up Penrith in that trial. But that said, they do have a lot of Supercoach friendly and relevant players this year.
Yeah.
They got Sean Russell on one of the wings there at 280k. I think he could be some value this season. Well, Penasini as well, around 250k. So a couple of boys you could look at his centre wings that would be great to start with, I think. There's some people that are thinking maybe run with some pods of Dylan Brown or Mitchell Moses to start the season. King, what are your thoughts on the halves for Parra?
Mate, I love it. I really do. I think it's like you say, they're a very, very friendly Supercoach team. Gutho at the back, those boys in the halves. I have got Moses in my team now. I've drafted him, I think, in 3 out of the 4 drafts that I'm in. So I look back to when Desi Creek won the comp a couple of years ago in Supercoach, and Moses was instrumental in sort of that first 10 weeks of the season for him. And I think we can see that again. He's probably lost a little bit of form. He's always been known as a contract kind of player, to step up in those years where he sort of was chasing a contract. And that's definitely something that's, I think, on the horizon this year. Mate, with the guys in the centres, you mentioned Russell, you mentioned Penasini. Again, both are in my team.
Same. I got them both.
I think I saw enough from Russell last year just to see he's a little mongrel bastard, I like that kind of player. He looks like a guy who will go after the ball and, take a few scoots out of dummy half. And I see him in that sort of Nofo kind of sort of mould. He will go after the ball, and his finishing on that left-hand side looks good. I don't think there's any danger that he loses the spot anytime soon. And I think with the draw that Parra have got, it's not easy, but it's not. And again, I've spoken about me not being a draw sort of Supercoach player, but I'm trying to expand that as well and look at it a little bit more this year. I think the Eels are probably the ones that will benefit the most from it. I can see this team being sort of, 6-2, 7-1 after the first 8 weeks. And I think from a Supercoach point of view, the more Eels players you can have in, I think that the highest points your team will be on.
Fair call. totally agree. Moses as well. The only thing I wanted to say on Moses King was he does have a ton in him. He can score tons, and with the goal kicking as well. If you think this Para side have a good draw and are going to put some points on teams, that's another big positive to Mitch Moses is that goal kicking. But yeah, couldn't begrudge anyone starting with any of those Para boys.
And mate, I've gone IPAP over Fafita.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, look, it's what I think 80 or 100 grand difference or something like that. So it's not like for like, but I really liked what I saw from him in the trials. I didn't think last year was a career year. Like a lot of people have sort of spoken about how maybe that was just sort of a one-off and, you know, new team, new surroundings. But I think this guy's got the ability to do that again. So, yeah, I'm pretty keen on IPAP as well. So I've got Gutho, I've got IPAP, I've got Moses, Penasini, I've got Russell. I don't have Marnie. I've gone Cheese instead. But mate, very, very easily I could have 6 Parramatta players in my team.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting, isn't it? And I've definitely got a few draft teams with a few of them in there as well.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. Yeah, and that bench of Paras as well, King. There's not looking like anyone on that bench that's going to be demanding minutes from a few of these, well, guys like IPAP in particular, and even Matto could see some big minutes in the middle potentially. So whether Lane shifts out and then Matto pushes out, but both of them could be really relevant again. And I think even Matto is undervalued.
I think you're spot on there, mate, because that's what I've always liked about Para was their starting 13 seems so much like the depth doesn't seem to be there at Para. You know, when their top 13 are out of form, the team really sort of falls away. And I just think they're in a position where probably out of all the teams starting the season, these are the guys that most inform. Again, you can look at that trial against Penrith or not. Like, forgetting that, it just looks like they're ready to start the season really sort of well. So I think I'm just going to ride it. Let's see how they go for the first sort of 4 to 5 weeks and then reassess from there.
Yeah, no, I like it. On the Titans side of the park, made a couple interesting ones. Well, ones that people were sweating on, in particular, Beau Fermor has been named to start on the edge. So, you know, if you're thinking of starting with him in your centre wing in particular, that looks all right for now. Obviously, yep. Kevy Proctor on that bench, but he's getting a bit older and all that sort of thing. So, you know, whether we see a different role from Kevy this season, we'll see. Yeah, you know, people were thinking about Aaron Clark. He's 300k at hooker, but you got Will Smith on the bench there, so I think you got to wait and see, and maybe have a little bit of a look to see what's going on first, for that money to be really well spent. But yeah, David Fafita's there. There was also a bit of speculation around his fitness potentially, but he's all good to go, and he's obviously there. So, are you starting with Fafita, King, or are you staying away?
No, like I say, mate, I've gone IPAP over Fafita.
Sorry, you did say it. Okay.
Look, I have had him at times in my preseason team, it's a huge call not to start with him. When you got 30% of Supercoach, I think it's 32% his ownership is. It's a big antipod to go against him, and we saw what he did in the All-Stars game, and that was in the first 15-20 minutes, mate. This guy doesn't need players around him to be fatigued for him to do what he does. This guy can take on the biggest, freshest players, the quickest players, and just make them look stupid. So it's a massive, massive sort of go for anyone to sort of leave him out. But yeah, it's just one of those calls I'm making. The 100K, I don't have it there to change from IPAP to him, which means I'm going to have to move other stuff around. I'm happy with where everything is at the moment. But if I could have him in there and not screw up my team elsewhere, I probably would.
Yeah, so you've got Sexton as well confirmed. Obviously, that was pretty common knowledge, but a few people might look at Sexton as a bit of a pod to start the season in the halves, maybe. With Cleary out, though, I have been seeing a lot of teams that have just all of a sudden gassed it with some pretty nice pods at 7 now. People running Hines, Sammy Walker, even Jerome Hughes. So I like that Cleary's out. It brings a bit of bit of difference to the teams. A lot of people probably would have started with Cleary had he been there. And obviously him being out for the first 3 weeks at least, it looks like. it's going to be really good, really interesting to see which way people go.
Yep.
You know, with that spot there, and then how they use the money. And I mean, you can go to Cherry Evans, you can go to Hines and bank 300k or whatever it is, which is crazy. So, yeah, keen to look at that one, whether he still can go a Sexton now, given that Cleary's out and there's more money to spend at halfback, because, you know, you might have been trying to find some cheaper options. I don't know, but he should goal kick, so he could be a decent option. But apart from that, you know, you got guys like Jaden Campbell, another kid coming through, but I think it's just going to be a draft thing for Jaden. You can't really realistically pick these guys in Classic and compete with Teddies and Paps and Turbos and Latrells and guys like that.
I think if we look at a team like the Eels and sort of what their potential is as a team, and maybe a little bit unfulfilled, obviously been a solid top 8 team, I think the Titans have underachieved with what they've sort of done and the manpower they've had. I think over the last few years, at times they've signed good players and they just haven't performed well as a team. I don't really see any difference this year. I don't think that. I think Fogarty's a huge loss for him. I thought when he sort of came there, he really ran that team well. Brimson, for me, I don't know whether he's fullback, whether he's 5'8". Yeah, look, I just don't like the Titans. I really don't like sort of who they are, what they are as a team, and yeah, if I can stay away from any of their players, I am.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Like, they'll have some points in them some weeks, and then some guys in there that'll blow up. But yeah, whether you start with any of them, good luck to you. And then to finish off the round, it's a blockbuster on the Sunday evening. The Cowboys taking on the Bulldogs. Ugh, you can have this one, King. Thoughts on it?
Mate, I'll be asleep by fucking 6 o'clock. Who wants to watch this fucking game? Seriously. Like, I tell you what, though, if the Bulldogs needed a fucking confidence booster to start the year, this is what they've got anyway. You know, like, they couldn't have drawn much fucking easier to start the year with 2 points. Mate, the Doggies, look, Matty Burton, our newest champion of the Liam Knight Award, will lead this team around the park. Mate, what can I say? I don't really like anyone in either of these teams.
Oh, look, I don't mind the few of the new faces in the Dogs side, to be fair. I think they're getting there maybe, but we'll see what happens. I think, you know, TPJ is still going to be relevant, even though people are off him because of his discipline. You know, Naden's at 350 odd K. He's probably a bit of a punt at 350 odd K. You got Matty Burton there. A lot of people keen to start on him, and we obviously know how keen you are on Burton King, but we'll let that one go through to the keeper. But yeah, I don't know. I think I can see the Dogs improving, and they might cause a few upsets throughout the year. But you know, once they get Reid Marnie next season in particular, I think they start to become a bit more of a force. But yeah, in this one, I like TPJ this season. Yeah, I won't start with Burton. There might be a few people doing it.
I've got to disagree, man. I think Reid Marnie's a good player because he's in the Eels team.
We'll see. We will see that. We'll find out.
I just think you put him in a team like the Dogs, and I just think he's going to get lost like every other 9. We've had Katoa there. You know, Michael Leacher, whatever the fucking happened to him, you know. With Cronulla, they looked like he could fucking, you know, change the world in their reserve grade team, and then when he was moving into first grade, and he took the Dogs contract and fucking, yeah, nothing. You know, like, just, the Dogs is just where you go to die. Fuck. It's a shit thing. Mate, Gus Gould took fucking 15 years or whatever it was to get Penrith right. It's going to take him another fucking 40 to get the Dogs right. Jesus. Cannell be dead.
All right. Well, if that's what you think of the Dogs, I hate to hear what you think of the Cowboys. But yeah, look, Hammer starting at fullback to start the season. He's not cheap. He's in that 400k odd range somewhere in there, which is a bit of an awkward price for me. I don't like it just because he's not going to be your basey, you know, taking 20 hit-ups fullback. You're going to rely on him to find some open space and get those, you know, amazing tries that he can score. You know, Holmes at centre. You're thinking he might be all right at centre king this season? Might turn into a specialist centre?
All right. He's going to kick, yeah?
I presume so, yeah.
That's sort of what I like about Holmes is Holmes has a tendency when he's not kicking to disappear in games. Like, it's as weird as it sounds, it just brings him that little bit more into the game. I know it's obviously after a try. I know it's not involved too much, but it just seems like Holmes, once he's kicking, actually gets that little bit more involved in the gameplay. The worst thing he ever did was go and play NFL. It really was. He went from being basically the best player in the comp at the time and the form player in 2016, and there's still glimpses of it there. But look, that said, the duality that he's got, I think he's a worthwhile centre option. I can definitely see him being in the top sort of 6 or 7 centres by the end of the season, but by no means is he a must-have. Could he drop cash? Yes. Could he go to sort of 350, 400? Yes. But I think he could peak at 650 or 700 as well at times. So
who was that? Sorry, Val.
Val, yeah.
Yeah. Look, yeah. I think if you're a Queenslander as well, he probably holds a place close to your heart. So we might see him find a few teams, and with the goal kicking, as you said, he could be really relevant.
Yeah.
Just it depends how busy he is. Another big one that we probably haven't, I don't know if we mentioned yet, King, is there was a lot of speculation Lolo would be starting in the front row. He's not. He's going to start at 13, which puts Cotter to the bench, and there was a lot of people high on Cotter as well, potentially. But the interesting thing I've seen with Lolo is I think Dean Pay, is part of the coaching staff there now, has come out and said he'll play some big minutes.
Yep.
At 480k, all of a sudden, I've started thinking about Lolo again.
I'm putting him in the same ballpark as Gerbo. Looking at the Manly sort of lineup and their bench and injuries and things like that, I think Gerbo's going to play big minutes as well. And both these guys are 480 and 490k, and I think we can see a resurgence this year. Lolo's proven that he's a gun. He was plagued by injuries last year, broke his hand twice, had countless other injuries. If he is healthy, the biggest thing I think with a lot of these players over the off-season has been, vaccination statuses and things like that. People have talked about it with Tarpanay and stuff. Mate, he doesn't belong at 480k. He's a 600k player all day long, and he's more than that in his best days. So, I haven't got him there, mate, but fuck, you could easily put him in, eh?
Yeah, there's a few of these guys around this 480 mark, like Satili, Lolo, Nakora. It's so tempting. I don't know. It'd be so nice to make another team because I can't bring myself to start some of them.
If you go 3 or 4 of these guys instead of Fafitas and iPads.
That's right.
Mate, if they don't do it,
blow up every week. Yeah.
Holy fuck, you hurt. Like,
it's just so tempting. It'd be nice to run a team like that, I reckon. But
to change from a 480k player to a 650 or a 700, like, that's awkward. Like finding that 250k 1 or 2 weeks in, you got to sacrifice something else somewhere that the way you've created your team. So,
I mean, that said, I reckon there's opportunity there with some of these mid-rangers, like your Nakoras, your Satilis. If you get it right and it's one of them, you give yourself a good chance to go.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
It'll be interesting. So, obviously, Lukey and Nanai, a couple of guys in that mid 350k sort of range, King as well, starting on both edges for the Cows. Again, there seems to be a lot of competition for spots there, but these boys have earned the spots and they're theirs for now. So whether you're starting with those guys, I don't know. I'm not sure who's the better one or what, but
yeah,
I'm keen to see how they go.
Surprised like Mitchell Dunn isn't sort of in there ahead of those guys. Obviously, they've worked hard in the off-season and, that, like you say, they've earned that spot. There was another lad who was playing for the Cowboys last year that I didn't mind, that Shane Wright. Any idea what happened to him?
No, and that's the thing. It's like, where are a few of these guys that they were high on? At one point, they were starting Condon there regularly. So,
yeah.
But no, I'm not sure what happened with Righty either.
Yeah, interesting. So, look, yeah, the Cowboys have got a lot of work to do from last season.
Yeah, look, and then obviously
coach got rid of sort of Greeny, and they've gone to Toddy Payton. It didn't really work out last year. I thought he'd be the guy to sort of get them back on track, and they did anything but. They went worse. So, I'm not as much against these guys as the fucking, the Dogs and stuff like that. But, you need some of these guys to show you some consistency before you even go near them.
Yeah, and look, there's probably not going to be a heap of guys from these teams in your Supercoach team. Realistically, there might be the odd one here that is a bit of a gem in these teams, but they aren't the teams that are putting big points on other teams, and that's where all the big Supercoach points comes from. Obviously, scoring tries and all those attacking stats, and it's just generally not going to be these two teams. So, look, that's it for round one, King. So there's some stuff there, but just keen for the footy to be back on tomorrow night, mate. Really keen for this game tomorrow night, and get aroused.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I'm trying to think. I've got something else on tomorrow night. What the fuck am I doing? Maybe drinking. Something different.
I'm playing. I can't believe I'm gonna do the beans. You'll probably all heckle me. I joined a bloody outdoor soccer team this season, so.
Mate, look at you go. You got your indoor cricket. You got your tennis.
I don't play cricket.
Huh?
I don't play indoor cricket.
No? I thought you were playing indoor cricket with the lads.
No.
Mate, you got the tennis going on.
Mate, got to do something.
Weigh 130 kilo. What's going on? You're trying to get back under 100.
I don't know. They're playing me up front. I'm a striker. So I don't have to run far. It's great.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway, we've got a trial tomorrow night, so I'll be probably faking an injury if it's getting too close to kick off and I haven't checked team list.
Be careful. 3 games in, I did my ACL. Never played soccer before in my life, so just fucking careful, son.
I don't get out of a trot, King. Sorry. I don't get out of a trot.
And that was where I made the mistake, mate, was I put the sprint on and it was magical, mate. It fucking looked good, but it went down real quick. Boys and girls as well, there is one league left that we are yet to fill. It is the Bogans Cup. And the code is 594461. Anyone who's not already in the league, guys, if you're in the invitation, if you're in the draft, if you're in whatever the fuck the other one is, don't jump in this one as well. But 594461. By all means, guys, any newbies, we'd love to have you in. Jump on board. That is the third and the final of the BJ leagues this year. And as with any year, guys, anyone who wins the overall for those leagues or the head-to-head overall, whatever the fuck you call it, will qualify for next year's invitational. So, and then we've just got to figure out who to kick out.
Yep. So all of that stuff. I also said we're going to do some giveaways, but I've got to organise it. So that'll come. Just bear with us. I'll have to do some pre-organising so that it runs smoothly and not doing it on the fly right now. Were we going to someone look at someone's Pimp My Team, King?
I know. Bogan said something about that, didn't he?
Yeah, Mark, who might be familiar to viewers, as the fucking Cowboys.
Marky.
Oh, where the fuck's he this year?
I don't know. He's in one of our leagues.
Oh, he is in one league. Oh, that's all right.
That's why I'm checking that.
King,
I get emotional when some of the boys leave.
Bogues, I've still got the Brisbane Souths thing up for me, so I can't see.
I haven't got anything up for me, so I've got no. What the fuck's stream?
This has been some true for so
done well.
I'll have a look at the. I haven't looked at the chat all night, and I've just realised I'm coughing some shade for this side profile view. So you might have to stay. Destroyed. Everyone's got the boys are into me.
Mate, they want to see your pretty eyes, mate. That's what it is.
Dead set.
They need you to look into their eyes, mate, and fall in love.
Yeah, well, they can all go and get fucked. I'm just going to permanently be like this from now on, King.
So whose is it? This is Marky at the fucking Cowboys.
Yep.
Oh, Tanoa Brown. I don't like it. Fafita Leilua Tamalolo. Aaron Clark. Look, I'm not a Clark fan. I'm not, but anyone else under 300k, there's not much fucking out there, is there? Tuolangi, Targa. All right, so I don't mind it. I'm pissing Tanoa Brown off and I'm putting Max King in. I'm making 90k there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the rest you can sort of see okay, cheapies or whatever it may be. I tell you what, you reckon this team's got turbo, mate? It's got to be close.
Yeah, I think.
Gone cheapies all on the bench. He doesn't have a premium hooker.
Has gone 480 in Paulo on that second back row spot, and also Clark's a bit mid-ish.
480 in Lolo.
I don't think they're going turbo.
You don't reckon turbo's there?
Nah, I think the money's been dispersed a little bit. I don't think they've got turbo.
All right, let's go to the backs. Let's see. No, Teddy and Pappy. All right, so he's got Kula, Valami, Penasini, Toto. Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, the interesting one. I don't mind it. There's some players you aren't seeing in a heap of teams.
Mate,
Toto, Lomax.
I'll be honest, mate. This is probably the first team I've seen with Toto.
Definitely.
Everyone else I'm seeing sort of take in the centre wings, like maybe Stags is where they max out at cost-wise at 433. I'm not seeing anyone with Totos or Garricks or anything like that. And throw in there, he's got Lomax as well. So he's definitely taken that approach to scoring big in the centre wings a little bit more serious than others.
Yeah, look, it's a bit of a pod. There's some pod action there for sure. I like it. I don't mind it. I think there'll be some weeks that this team scores well, so I wouldn't be telling him to get rid of him. Maybe Coates. Maybe you could downgrade Coates to someone else around that 200 sort of K mark, somewhere a bit cheaper. Bring Penasini in or bring Targo down, and then try and upgrade your hooker. I don't know about Clark to start the season. I'll be trying to find someone else in the hooker position personally, but yeah, not bad. Don't mind it.
I'll tell you what, I'd go Coates down to someone like maybe even a Sean Russell.
Yeah.
Save 70K there. Go back to the Fords, Bogues. So I'd go Coates down to Russell, and I'd go Tunua Brown to Max King. So there you got 160. And maybe he's got some money in the bank, and I'd be trying to go Aaron Clark to someone a little bit more premium.
Yeah, and maybe if you do need a little bit more cash, I don't know, Paulo. I don't want to talk people out of guys like Paulo because they can be really Supercoach relevant, and we've seen him start seasons well. If he's got the offload going, he can be relevant. But after last season, I'm real off him. He started awesome and then turned into an absolute bludger. So, just that said, I'll probably try to talk you out of him, but maybe if you need a bit of extra money, look at
fucking boxing, and he got too fit. He needed to be a fat bastard. Have you not? Do you not follow Gronkowski, mate?
Oh, not religiously, but I do like the Gronk.
Mate, the Gronk in the NFL, right? They tried to get him right. They tried to get him eating fit. They tried to get him fucking fit and healthy, and Tom Brady turned around and said, "Don't you know how good this bloke is? Get him on the cocaine, get him on the fucking strippers, and you'll see the best player you've ever seen." And he fucking performed. Paulo's the same, mate. You need this bloke on the KFC, on the Maccas every fucking meal of the day, and he's a 650K player all day long. Jesus Christ. Boys, sometimes they just don't realise what fat men need. Fat men need pussy and they need food. So, come on, lads. Better coaches. We need better coaches.
Yeah, look, anyway, Marky, I like it, brother. Don't change too much, but maybe try to fix that hooker.
Yeah, it's solid. What else we got? That's it.
That's it.
Gee.
Hour and 10. Fuck, we'll take that. That's not bad for us.
Oh, what's it going to be like when he's have to do the fucking results as well?
Yeah, we'll have to chop it down.
Yeah.
Look, it's teamless Tuesday celebrations, Bogan. Don't take this away from us. It's a big time of the year, a momentous occasion for all super coaches and rugby league fans alike. We can almost taste it now.
One drink left in the fridge after I finish this fucking show.
That's good.
And enjoy it
because I
bedtime.
Because I dropped off during that last game when you were reviewing it, so good thing I woke up just in time.
King, I want to throw some chat at you now.
Yep.
You start. Imagine your side. You're starting with Turbo. If you start Turbo, do you captain him against the Penrith to start the season? And if you're not, why are you starting with Turbo?
Mate, 100%. There is no other captain if you got Turbo on your side. He could come out and score 60 or 70. You can't regret it because at the end of the day, the potential that this bloke's got to go large, and
yeah,
like I say, it.
Yeah, let me counter that. Hang on. Let me counter that with Tedesco will play the Knights, and Pappenhausen will probably, hopefully at this point, based on the list at this point in time, will play the Tigers.
Yeah. I like Pappy as captain ahead of Teddy against the Tigers. Like, If you've got Teddy Pappy combination, I'm going Pappy as captain over Teddy.
And the interesting thing in round 2 is the Storm play South, so Pap up against South, and the Roosters play Manly. So it's Tedesco versus Trbojevic.
Yeah.
After that, it opens up for Turbo against the Dogs, and Pap plays Para, and Teddy plays South. So, while some people are talking, Teddy and Pap up and talking away from Turbo, those first 3 rounds in particular are pretty interesting. So, anyway, just a bit of food for thought. Bogan's about to fall asleep in the background. Fucking hell, the international viewers bloody hearing the yawns, Bogs.
Mate, I'm loving Gutho. I'm loving Gutho against the Titans. Look, I can't help but to pick a shit captain, right? I can't do the set and forget that I've spoken about for the last 17 fucking years. I can't do it. And so the worst thing is when I pick my captain, I don't even pick it on good matchups. It's just how I feel.
Wet track, pissing down rain, Manly, Penrith tomorrow night. Is it staying on Turbo? That's a tough call. I think it's a really tough call.
Yeah, if I'm going Turbo, which I'm not, but if I'm a player, if I'm a super coach that's going Turbo, it's captain all year long. You just got to. That just becomes a law of averages. That becomes that the bloke's going to average more than anyone else, and over 25 rounds, the bloke who wins it. The Timmy Moody's of this year. Are you going to pick 25 of the same captain and just get it? Are you going to get blessed some weeks and go a different captain and pick it on matchups or whatever? Mate, we've seen that burn people before. I don't know what the right answer is.
I don't know. And there might be some chinks out on those edges for Penrith. You got Targo, he's an experienced. You can have Sean O'Sullivan out there. They're going to need to be really defensively solid, obviously. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, I think Bogan's might have already fallen asleep, so we might have to let everyone go.
It will happen. It will happen at some stage where I'll fall asleep and the stream will just go for like 4 hours. But not
anyway.
Not tonight.
I don't know.
Right, boys and girls.
Anything in the chat? I think we're done.
I think we're done. Thank you for joining us for another week. The lads on BJonGameDay, special Wednesday night show just for Teamless Tuesday 1. We will be back normal time Tuesday next week. 9 p.m. Daylight Savings Time, 8 p.m. Queensland time where I am. Anything else to add, lads? That's it. Join the group code. Just remember, guys, if you haven't joined in a league yet, we've got one left. It is the BJ Bogans Cup, 594461. Jump in. Cheers, lads.
Yep. All the best, guys.